The final Home Assistant release of the year is upon us, and what a year it has been. We have seen huge strides towards the mission of local voice control. We've had countless dashboard upgrades, speed improvements, to-do lists, shopping lists, network storage, macros, response calls in services, and so much more this year. But it's not over just yet, as we have 2023.12 to talk about first, and this month is no small release itself, with even more tile card features, default dashboard improvements, a big upgrade for to-do lists, blueprint updates, and more. But first, we are talking about thermostats. You remember a couple of months ago, we finally saw a much needed update to the thermostat more info dialog in Home Assistant that showed off a brand new, really clean design for the thermostat that was a huge upgrade over the old thermostat card, which was getting very outdated with all of the new tile card improvements that we've been seeing over the last year. Well, the problem with that was that it was just the more info dialog that was changed. So if you brought up the pop-up, you would have this really nice clean design with the heating and cooling sliders and the plus and minus buttons, but then if you clicked off of it and looked at your regular dashboard view, it would show the old thermostat card, which was a little bit jarring. Well, this month that card has now been updated too, and you will get the same view no matter if you are looking at your dashboard or the more info dialog, giving you a much more consistent feel. The other cool thing is that the thermostat card also supports features like the tile card does, meaning you can choose to display HVAC modes and preset modes right on the card. Finally, this style applies to a new humidifier and water heater card too, if you have those types of entities in your smart home, again giving it a nice consistent feel. The tile card also gets a new feature in this release too, so that now if you would like to display a number entity in your dashboard, for example if you create a number helper in Home Assistant, then you can now add a feature to control the number directly from the card, displaying it with a plus and minus button or a slider. Next up, the default dashboard sees some much needed love in this release too. As we know, the default dashboard has traditionally been a little unwieldy as soon as you start adding quite a few devices and can quickly grow to be unusable. But this release adds a few new welcome ways to keep it more manageable. Firstly, if you are in the habit of adding devices and entities to an area when you set them up, which hopefully you are, you can now completely hide areas from the default dashboard that you don't want to see. This could be great, for example, if you create an area called Hidden, you add devices and entities you don't need to see to that hidden area, and then you can hide all of those entities from the default dashboard by hiding the hidden area, and it's instantly cleared up. But what if you've been adding devices you do care about to their respective areas, and then the devices you don't want to see, you've just been leaving them without an area? Well, that's where the other new option comes in, which is the ability to hide entities without an area. Toggling this will immediately clear the default dashboard of all entities that aren't assigned to an area, leaving you with a much cleaner default experience. The default dashboard also contains a new energy summary card, which can also be toggled on or off from this menu too. Another great option for organizing the default dashboard is the ability to reorder areas on top of showing or hiding them. Let's say you have rooms that are used more than others, you can now rearrange the position to whichever ones you would like to be at the top to make navigating them a bit faster. Now, I'm guessing most of you have your own custom dashboards, maybe because the default dashboard was a bit unusable in the past, but hopefully for those of you that do use the default dashboard, this is a great addition, and I'm also hoping that this is just a first step into some big changes towards making the default dashboard more usable, which we may see in future releases. Finally, for the dashboard stuff, although this isn't technically a dashboard thing, but the history panel now has the ability to show long-term statistics, giving you a much better look at the history of a sensor over a longer time period. By default, Home Assistant stores 10 days worth of history for a sensor before it's cleared out, so as not to consume lots of disk space and clog up your database. However, it also collects what's called long-term statistics, which is basically an hourly summary of that sensor which is kept for much longer. It's not going to be nearly as detailed, especially if you have a sensor that has a new value every second or something like that, but at least it's better than nothing. However, in previous releases, the history page hasn't been able to show these long-term statistics and would just show the normal history. but now in this release it can. If you change your time frame to something older than 10 days, firstly you'll notice how fast the page now loads, but secondly you should see data going back much further than was previously possible. You can see the point it changes over to long-term statistics by the slightly different colour on the graph, which is really cool as you can now see both normal history and long-term history in the same view. Nice. Next up, I want to talk about a feature that I mentioned in the previous release that I would love to see. Back in 2023.11, we got a complete overhaul of to-do lists, including shopping lists, which gave us a dedicated panel to view all of our lists, plus the introduction of a to-do entity. In that release, I mentioned that I would love to see a way to get the contents of a list from a service so that it could be directly outputted as part of an automation, which wasn't possible at the time. But now in 2023.12, it is. There is a new service called ToDo.getItems, which does exactly that. It gets you a list of all of the items on the to-do list along with their status. This is perfect as it would allow you to use this information in automations and script. For example, if you want to get a notification when you go to the shop, instead of sending a notification that contains a link to a dashboard that has your shopping list, you can now just send the shopping list directly in the notification. Or you could also read out the list on a speaker when you ask Assist what your shopping list is. This is a really great addition. There's also another service you can use now too, called ToDo Remove Completed Items, which you can use to quickly remove all items that are marked as complete. Next up, Blueprints now supports updates. Previously, when you used a blueprint from someone else in the community, there was no way to update the blueprint if the author made some changes. You'd have to manually change the YAML or completely delete and re-add the blueprint. But now in 2023.12, you now have the Re-import Blueprint button, which will get the latest blueprint and overwrite your existing one. Now, be warned that you may need to adjust your automations or scripts if the new version changes something or adds something that your automation was using or something like that. But it's great to see that these can now be updated from the UI too. Finally, for the big things, there is now a new login screen that matches the new user experience that we've seen applied to other areas just recently. Now when you log in on a device, you will see a new login page that displays the users that are a part of your smart home, along with their profile pictures, which I think is a nice touch. Now, I'm sure many of you are asking the same question right now. Isn't that kind of dangerous if someone tries to log into your install from the web or remotely? It would give away your private information, right? The team has obviously considered this, and the neat thing is it will only display this page if you are logging in from your home network or a private network. If you try to log in via Nabicasa or another mechanism outside of your local network, you will be met with a standard login page with a username and password. This page has also had a few tweaks to it, with a subtle redesign and being able to select the language down in the bottom left, which makes the new user experience feel more consistent. As for the list of things this month, firstly, the Roborock integration now has support for displaying floor maps directly from the vacuum. Service calls that have responses in them now work when targeting multiple entities. The ESP Home integration has had performance improvements for even more speed. And finally, if you make a typo or a mistake when working in YAML, it should now display a much more meaningful error message than before to help track down the issue. In terms of new integrations this month, we see 6 new integrations added in this release, including a new garage door integration, interesting, along with 3 new integrations available to set up in the UI instead of via YAML. As for breaking changes this month, or as they are now called, backward incompatible changes, we have once again a pretty short list, with the only major ones that I can see is the calendar and weather entries, which have had the names of their services changed ever so slightly and are going to be deprecated in 2024.6. The team is sorry for changing these ones as they are quite new, but there was a design choice that they wanted to fix and make better, which caused this change. You do have quite a while to fix this one, but it should be a very straightforward change anyways. And other than those, nothing else major, but do make sure to have a read for yourself before upgrading. And that is about it for 2023.12, the last release of this year. This year has went so fast, it's been absolutely crazy. But I think my favourite feature of this release is probably the new to-do list services. Those for me are going to be really useful in automations. I'm glad to see that the team didn't waste any time in getting those features added to this release after the to-do list came out in last release. But do let me know your favourite feature down in the comments. I think the thermostat one is also really cool and I think will be a popular one. But yeah, drop your favourite down in the comments. Interested as always to hear your thoughts. And other than that, please make sure to drop this video a like and get subscribed if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video.